God of War Ragnarok has a mixed perception compared to its legendary predecessor. A bigger world, more expansive combat, and more characters meant that the story felt a little less developed. There is so much to do in God of War Ragnarok, but compared to the game before, all of it feels less important. The biggest victim of this, I believe, is Thor, a character that received an entire game's worth of build-up for only 3 or so hours of screen time. However, I find Thor's narrative presence, in particular the way music is used to reinforce it, a very nuanced and deep topic, despite the shallowness of his plot relevance. Let's start at the beginning, with a very important distinction. This is not Thor's theme. It's actually Odin's, and you will see why later. Trust me. Sure, it's the first thing that plays when Thor shows up, but that only makes it more Odin's theme. Thor in God of War 4 is not a character so much as he is a whispered presence.
Thor, God of Thunder.
The land is littered with iconography of him. His anger is alluded to be so powerful, the skies themselves reflect it. Mimir is constantly telling you tales of his terrible feats, of his campaigns of slaughter against the giants. Thor is Odin's right hand, the hammer of the Aesir, the god of thunder. The biggest set piece in the game is a giant that Thor killed. Long before we see him on screen, we understand that Thor is not just a god, but a force. So when Kratos throws his door open while lightning blows holes in his roof and he cries, "Who are you?" It's not really a question. He knows who it is, and he knows who it represents. Thor is not a solo practitioner. He is a force, but without direction, a force is meaningless. Within God of War 4, you are told quite explicitly who wields that force, who commands it.
Odin.
Odin. Thor may be the one standing there, but Odin has come to his doorstep, and that's why the reveal of his massive stature comes with that bombastic blast. But then comes the curveball.
I come in?
Thor's first lines are counter-characteristic to everything we have been told about. Odin is the mastermind of the oppression of the giants, but Thor is the instrument. As far as Mimir has let on, Odin says to kill, and Thor does. Odin even alludes to kill, and Thor does. God of War 4's entire storyline claims that to run into Thor would essentially mean instant conflict, and the first words out of his mouth, asking if he can come into the house to share his mead. In 6 words, all bets are off about Thor. There is no longer anything known about what he is going to bring to the table, except for the mead. And that's when we're finally introduced to his real theme. Those rising strings, tense they are, but a very different vibe from Odin's theme. I find it especially amusing how this introduction of motif is also used to display how big Thor is. Kratos loses a lot of intimidation due to the height difference here. Even if he's got more house manners than we've been made to believe, it's very clear that Thor could still wreck Kratos if he wanted to. And after that realization, Odin's theme comes back as his ravens fly in behind Thor. Despite the persistent back-of-the-mind thought that Thor's presence can mean absolutely nothing good, he is textbook polite for this entire encounter. He compliments the house, waits until he's offered a seat to sit down, and offers Mjolnir as a sign of peace. As a reminder, Thor killed Thamur, who is absolutely enormous, as well as an entire village worth of people, just because Thamur happened to be there at the time. As another reminder, Kratos does this to Thor's son in the last game. Those two details form a pretty foregone conclusion for when they meet, and this is not it. There is no reason for him to be this polite, and the music reflects this by being incredibly sparse. There are gentle swells of his motif occasionally, and nothing else. We don't know why Thor is there, and he is acting the exact opposite of the way that we have been told he always acts. So it makes perfect sense that Kratos' first question is,
Why are you here? Just being polite.
Yeah, Thor, why? Why are you being polite? What reason could you have to be polite to the guy who did this to your son in the last game? We don't have to wait long to find out. And thus, we have proven that this is Odin's theme, and those rising strings are Thor's. Odin waltzes into the house, grabbing a stool for himself and drinking both glasses of mead, losing all the points Thor scored for politeness, and takes over the sparse conversation with a lush forest of silver-tongued salesmanship. Thor really only chimes in with threats.
We know what you've been up to. Stop it.
But he says a lot more without his words. Odin starts off talking about Thor's sons, in which Thor stares down Kratos unwaveringly, until he says this.
Dying is what we Aesir live for. And let's be honest, they were kinda useless.
At that point, Thor, despite his stated terrible rage and the easy to make assumption that he cares that his sons are dead because Kratos did this to them in the last game, says nothing. Not even a grunt, and simply turns his head, sniffing as Odin slams on the table in front of him the glass of mead that he notably did not drink. What the hell? Odin's first words in what Thor clearly believes is a reprimand to Kratos basically invalidates not only the death of his sons, but their entire lives, and is punctuated by trying to make him drink alcohol that he clearly wants, but is actively trying very, very hard not to drink. This is, of course, a strong allusion for Thor to be a recovering alcoholic, and Odin does not care for that at all, which he vocalizes later.
You have a debt. You're no fun anymore.
Bruh. For the rest of this conversation, Thor completely fails at being the Intimidator. He spends almost all of his time looking at Odin instead of Kratos. As Odin wraps up his intentions in a beefy burrito of both blame and flattery, Thor is laser focused on him. He is clearly just as in the dark about what Odin wants as Kratos is. That's why he has no answer when Kratos asks, and it's why he spends the whole time giving Odin his full attention instead of mean-mugging Kratos. Right from the start, Thor is less like Odin's right hand and more like his dog. He was sent in first in case Kratos responds with violence, and yet was infinitely more reserved, polite, and soft-spoken than Odin, who acts incredibly punchable from the second he walks in. It is clear that the dynamic we have come to understand is not as fair as initially thought. Thor is the hammer of the Aesir, but not as a title, as a literal. Odin invalidates Thor's sons, spits in the face of his attempts to avoid alcohol, openly says he's no fun anymore, in a conversation meant to intimidate and manipulate Kratos, and Thor just takes all of it, silently. To Odin, Thor is the hammer, a solution for the simplest and most numerous of his problems, and it is clear that any will Thor has to fight that perception is long, long gone. Kratos can see it too, and responds to Odin's 5-layer big beef and cheddar of a deal in the most Kratos way ever.
Isn't it? So what do you say?
No. Now, I know that this is an analysis of Thor, and a musical one at that. I've spent a lot of time talking about Odin and Thor as people and how their relationship is stupid, boring crap like that. But remember my first point. about how the theme most people think is Thor's is actually Odin's. Why did I feel such a need to clarify that? Well, it's because of this.
I've been waiting for this. You're not from here. We got a tradition called blood payments. It means I get a piece of you for what you took from my family. You'll pick it up.
Listen to the choice of instrumentation for that iteration of the theme. That is Odin's right hand. When the theme is used for Odin directly, it's in the form of a soft, low, almost mysterious choir of Nordic vocals, a representation of Odin's nature, his scheming silver tongue. Even if it's not used for Odin, it's representative of Odin as a person. But Odin's strength is in his control of Thor, and that's why when Thor sends Kratos into the stratosphere, we hear Odin's theme. An indirect use, which now and for the rest of the game comes in the form of heavy brass and string instrumentation, representative of Odin as a king, a figure, a tyrant. Odin through himself is mystery. Odin through Thor is force. This version of the theme is his hammer, and though Thor is very clearly beaten down by his life, boy, does he still know how to swing.
I've been waiting for this. You're not from here. We got a tradition called blood payments.
This is what the Thor we know is supposed to sound like. As he is given Odin's permission to cut loose, we see his politis, his reserved, quiet, downtrodden attitude completely disappear. He bares his teeth, he hisses his words, and becomes the force we have heard of in such great measure. The Thor we have heard whispers of throughout the land becomes the Thor we see. He comes alive. Do you remember the motif from before? The segmented bursts of those rising strings. This is where that motif, too, comes alive. The strings endlessly repeat over and over for Thor's battle themes. It creates a total wall of sound, but because it's always going up the scale, the entire piece relentlessly drives forward, as if the music is rolling at you. Rolling thunder. And the thunder shall bring forth the pain. It is a relentless motif, just like Thor himself. Musically, there is no breathing room, no space for anything else inside of it. It is the only existing backing of any of Thor's themes. Unless it is melody or percussion, there is physically no space for it in the track. Thor as a musical idea is a wall that outscores everything around it. Thor himself is an equivalent wall in the literal sense. He is unfazed by anything you throw at him, hard to stagger, fights like a bear, fights by clapping at you. Thor's motif represents Thor as the Force, an unstoppable, unshakable destroyer of a man, fueled by rage and a puppet of a greater god. Does that sound familiar? It is not hard to see that Thor is, at his core, a bigger, beardier version of young Kratos. But where Kratos turned to destroy those who wronged him, Thor has caved to the manipulation and is now both unhappy in his role and unable to escape it. But let's not get confused. Thor is not unhappy fighting. Thor fights because he loves to fight.
You know my past. The ghost of Sparta thing. Yeah. Then you know what I'm capable of. Show me!
The whole time, even as you slash, stab, and beat him, he smiles. He roars taunts at you.
How were you ever a god of war? You should be better than this! I could give a hot shit about your fatherly advice. I want to see the god of war!
At one point during the fight, he outright kills you and uses Mjolnir to bring you back to life.
Oh no. I say when we're done.
It is clear from the encounter in the house that there is more to Thor than the beast Odin sends out, but that beast is anything but mythical. He is, in all sense of the word, a force, which is equally reflected in his very simple but incredibly forceful motif. It's good for Odin that Thor is that force. As much as Thor likes to fight, Odin likes to attack, and yet we've seen that Odin is also very abusive to Thor, and Thor does not resist. Already, we have seen that there is a thick knot of manipulation that we will have to untie if we ever want to redeem Thor. He loves to fight, and Odin has cultivated in him a sense that he's not good for anything else, so he lives to fight. Even though Thor was a more effective diplomat in the house than Odin was, he clearly only feels alive when he's in battle, or at least feels significantly more alive than when he isn't, and Odin only wants him to feel alive when he's doing what he says. Thor is trapped so thoroughly that he can barely even realize it, and he certainly can't do anything about it. Despite all his talk about blood payments and Kratos killing his sons, he only takes action when Odin tells him he's allowed to do it. Thor and Kratos are pretty much equally matched, which means he's more than powerful enough to take Odin, and yet he is absolutely powerless. That's why Thor's battle theme contains both the instrumental bombast of Odin's theme, representative of Odin's strength, while also containing the vocal rendition of Odin's theme, representative of Odin's silver tongue, his manipulation and control of him. The instrumental tells you that Thor is dangerous to you, and the vocals tell you that Odin is why. Odin, whose strength is in his knowledge and coveting of all types of magic, and yet with no arcana whatsoever, he has Thor spellbound. In one theme, Thor is built up as this towering force of destruction, and yet his miserable circumstances are also lamented.
There he is. There's the god of war. Consider your blood debt paid. Be seeing you.
Let's review what we have so far.
Boy.
Thor's theme is used to represent Thor as a force, his unthinking destroyer role, his love for the fight, and a live persona. Odin's theme is used to represent Odin's abusive and manipulative control over Thor. It's associated as well with Thor's quieter, politer, dead persona. That low, tired rumble of a voice with his half-open eyes. Miserable Thor. And finally, we have Odin's theme in brass and bombast. The combination of the two. The representation of Thor as Odin's force. A weapon that he wields. Thor holds the hammer, but it is Odin's to use.
I am your father. Take the hammer and kill who I tell you to kill.
But we're getting ahead of ourselves with that. Get that out of here. Get that clip off of the screen. Get me 100 bars of gold. Get me 1,000 silver coins. Get me many gems of various types. Get me many. The next few times we see Thor are pretty minor appearances. There's only 2 big points to take away. One of them is in this interaction with Heimdall.
Take one more step, you're not gonna like how this ends.
Really? And how do you intend to stop me?
Look into my eyes. You tell me.
Yeah, you see that? That's how you know it's Thor's motif. As for the other point...
What are you up to? Dismissed. Go.
Gladly.
Take this. And this stealthy side of beef. You learned something from him. Really now. Okay. What did you teach the kid?
Nothing. What could I possibly teach him?
Exactly.
I
I can explain it to you, but I can't understand it for you. Stop letting your wife think for you. She's clouding whatever's left of your brain.
This isn't about her.
No, it's about your limitations. Accept them and move on. Now go smash something, will you? Honestly, I liked you better as a drunk.
We learn a lot about how deep the abuse goes in the Asgard sections of the game. Even when Odin's not there, he's still controlling Thor.
Wasn't thinking.
Good. It's better that way. I love Hellwalkers. You just blast them apart. Poof. Problem solved. Think, feel.
Even when Thor is threatening Atreus' life, he can't muster enough will to sound genuine about it.
You're an okay kid. You're still a giant, and I'll revel in killing you too.
I don't know, man. It really does not sound like you will. It's almost like you know, in the back of your mind, that someone might not let you. Atreus makes some very, very genuine attempts to connect with Thor, some of which succeed.
So we've got some similar life experience. What does it matter? Seems stupid to gripe about the things we can't change.
Who says we can't? Thor, I hope everything goes okay when you see Sif and Thud again.
Well, hope is better than thinking. It's a start.
But any scrap of happiness you can get out of Thor, Odin is quick to take away. Whether it be through downplaying Thor's frustrations about Atreus' involvement in Asgard, or the more subtle way he outright ignores Thor in every scene Atreus is involved in. Odin makes sure that Thor remains subtly resentful of Atreus, which ensures Atreus alone is not able to enact meaningful change in Thor, which gets us to this scene.
No, leave him alone. I command it.
You said no more Aesir blood would be spilled. You said family comes first. You don't think that this is retribution for him being here? He's put your granddaughter in danger. He's made your son miserable.
Loki didn't kill Heimdall. His father did. Your daughter is old enough to make her own mistakes. And your husband started drinking again, all on his own. Dismissed!
She never mentioned that he started drinking again. How Odin knows really doesn't matter. What matters is he doesn't care. If he cared, this wouldn't have been the last thing we saw him say.
Honestly, I liked you better as a drunk.
He likes Thor better that way anyway, because when Thor's drunk, he only loses one thing: the misery. He's still under Odin's thumb, he's still a hell of a fighter, he's just not sad about it.
Let it be known, the God of Thunder is good for two things: killing giants and pissing me!
The only two things Odin wants him to do. Thor hears Odin say all this, hears him completely downplay the death of another of his brothers, downplay threats to his daughter, downplay the idea that he's to blame for Thor drinking when the last thing he said to him before he did was, "I like you better as a drunk." He hears everything, and Sif makes one final bid to his dull and dusty soul.
Can't you see what's happening? He's not protecting us. Magni, Modi, our boys. We used to tell them stories by the fire. Do you remember? We would carve those wooden horses. We would play and laugh until the sun sank and they fell asleep in our laps. They were thrown at the Allfather's problems like brittle knives to a mountain face. And for what? What if Thrud's next?
Does Sif like Atreus? No, she does not, but she is pretty clearly talking about Odin as the problem here, and yet, as if it could never even cross his mind, Thor does not go for Odin. Thor does this.
You kill my son. sleep in their beds. Turn my father against me. My daughter.
I have no idea what's happening.
You know, I finally thought of something I can teach you.
Hey, stand down!
Sentry better be right. Where are you?
But, acting out of turn from what Odin wants, what is it you hear? That's how you know. That's how you know it's Thor's theme. Get me 1,000,000 bars of titanium. In a way, this is exactly what Atreus wants. At some level, he got through to Thor. With Sif's help, he was able to take a stand against Odin, even if they're both directing the anger at the wrong person. Odin did not need Atreus' help to turn against you, big dog, and he is not the one making Thor miserable. Thor's kind of a wash here. You can tell he clearly wants to change, that he cares about his family, that he wants to be better, but he has no idea how. Sif gets through to him that things cannot stand the way they are, but his first and only idea is to kill somebody with a hammer. Just like in that first fight with Kratos, he is completely bound to Odin's yoke, even if he's trying to break free of it. He tried to quit drinking, Odin turns him back to it. He helps put the mask together, Odin ignores his contributions. Atreus doesn't say a false word to Thor their entire time together, and Thor still believes he's being mocked, manipulated, taken advantage of.
Last time Father and I were here, we beat every one of Surtur's trials. Think you could...
Don't play me. Don't try to play me again. You shouldn't be here. You shouldn't have brought her here. Loki, you really keep trying to... I don't even know what you're trying to do anymore, but you have no idea the kind of shit I've been through.
He is constantly on guard, constantly thinking he's being played, because he knows that Odin is doing this to him, but he cannot do anything about it, because he's not angry at Odin. He's sad. He wants Odin to treat him like a son, the way he watches him treat Atreus. He wants to make Odin proud, to earn Odin's respect, and Odin withholds it, actively deprives him of it, because Thor has no solutions for sadness. The only thing that seems to come close is doing what Odin wants him to do.
Honestly, I liked you better as a drunk.
Dad?
Even if he doesn't want to do it. That's why it's better not to think, not to feel. Next time we see Thor, that's exactly what he doesn't.
Away from her!
Dad, wait!
I am done with you and your son! No more fucking games! And this time, I'm allowed to kill you.
The first time we fought Thor, he was very in control of the fight. Angry, yes, but a very directed anger. The second time we fight Thor, the fight is in control of him. All the anger he has inside of him is out in the open, pouring out of him in all directions, endlessly. To make this less subtle, he is also wearing a lightning suit that makes lightning pour out of him in all directions endlessly. He will not consider anything. He will not relent. He will kill you, or he will be killed. And yet he bears the tiniest bit of his soul to you, and it means everything.
Everything was fine before Loki showed up. He almost convinced me. I've been believing things could change.
With these quotes, Thor is in all 5 stages of grief at once. Things were clearly not fine before Loki showed up, and Thor is making himself out to be a fool for believing what Atreus said to him. But the problem is that Atreus' words are true, and for them to be true is all that Thor wants. For the first time in maybe his entire life, someone has made Thor want something to be different. But he is so deeply conditioned by Odin that he abuses himself for it. The music, just like Thor, rages on. His motif rattles, howls, thunders onwards, crushing any thoughts, drowning out any feeling as it goes, while Odin's theme still chants above it all, almost in a lament, As if to represent the death of Thor's redemption, the backslide to the small climb Atreus set him on. In the end, he comes back to Odin's hold. But those words say otherwise. Those words mean that a small part of Thor still believes, and Kratos takes that as an opportunity.
What the fuck are you waiting for?
Your daughter. My son calls her friend.
If you try to hurt her...
I would not.
Don't you know what I've done?
Yes! But what will you do now?
We don't change. Or destroy us.
No more. No more. For the sake of our children, we must be better.
The music here is perfect. Don't forget that Thor is essentially young Kratos trapped under a different Zeus.
How would it work? You're a destroyer, like me.
Kratos clearly sees just as much of himself in Thor as Thor sees in Kratos. They only share 2 scenes, but Thor clearly thinks that they are very much alike. 2 destroyers bound to destroy each other. Thor wants to change. He laments it in the midst of the battle.
Almost convinced me!
But he has no idea how.
We don't change. Or destroy us.
We must be better.
Right there, in one action and few words, Kratos shows him. His entire journey has been about moments like this, in times when young Kratos would have finished someone off, exactly what Thor expects him to do here. Old Kratos puts away the axe. As Kratos bears his soul to Thor, we hear his choice-making motif. Like Thor's Force motif, it's assembled of 3-note bursts, but this motif is contemplative, spaced, dictated. It's a motif whose power comes not from its force, its destructive capability, its physically demanding presence, but its assuredness, its will. It does not demand space, but creates it. It communicates an entirely different type of power, the type Kratos has displayed time and time again. The power to make that choice, to make that change. We must be better. At those 4 simple words that summate the entire odyssey of the Norse games, Thor's hammer falls. His shoulders fall. Every part of him relaxes. Atreus could explain it to him, but Kratos is what it takes for him to understand it. At the drop of Mjolnir, the cycle ends. Right there. And just like before...
Why isn't he dead? Are you talking? Who told you to do that? You don't talk! You don't think! I think, you kill! It's a simple fucking concept!
Sif was right about you. I just didn't want to see it.
What is this? Are you broken? I am your father. Take the hammer and kill who I tell you to kill!
No.
Thor looks so distraught here, so utterly and completely lost. It helps that Odin has completely thrown subtlety out the window. He says in no uncertain terms here that Thor should not, cannot, and will not think for himself, that he is in charge, that he owns Thor and dictates his every action. Odin asks if he's broken, and he very much is. He's been broken for a long time, and Thor can finally see the reason why, with eyes wide open. So for the first time, Thor drops the hammer, looks into his father's eyes, and says,
No.
I didn't want this. I did not want this.
You see that shit? That's why it's Odin's theme. For the last time, the all fuckers theme resounds. Despite all we tried to do, Thor is still his to control. With absolutely zero hesitation, no remorse, Odin kills Thor, and his final action is the only resistance he's otherwise shown. He refuses to look Odin in the eye. The hammer refused to pound a nail, and hammers that can decide not to pound nails cannot build an empire. And so that hammer is put down. Thor is a character marked by tragedy. He lived a life dominated by abuse, manipulation, and misery, never being able to live up to his father's expectations, despite being his most instrumental weapon in building his empire. By design, Thor was a peerless warrior that lived in a constant state of emotional defeat, and the only two people that could help him out of it were labeled his enemies. Thor's motif lives as he does. It's a motif that demands attention, that tramples opposition, and makes Thor a force, and yet it only serves as a base for Odin's motif, just as Thor was nothing more to Odin than the tip of his spear. Thor's entire life was dictated by the abuses of his father, and so too does his father's motif dominate his underscoring. In the unwinnable situation of Ragnarok, the loss of Thor is Kratos' only true failure. But even though he died for it, Thor embodied the message of God of War. It is not too late. We must be better. This has been Critical Crouton with a musical analysis of Thor. Thank you for watching.
Useless. Exactly. Wrong.